Hey, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. We're back with another Snap Counts podcast, the show where we like to kind of look at early action from today and just see what kind of pops up in our mind based off of the action from earlier, performances, all that. So tonight have Trajan from Wisconsin Sports on the Go, who's doing double duty because he's watching his team play currently. But we're here to
Yeah.
discuss some other NFL action as well. But I mean, how are you doing? I guess besides what's going on up in over in Lambeau Field right now.
Well, Kyle, the Bucks suck. The Packers are getting beat up on right now, but there's a lot of things that have gone not in the Packers' favor in this game. Outside of Brian Branch being tossed out, not a whole lot. Not a whole lot going right in the world of Green Bay right now. The Badgers got completely annihilated in Iowa too. So if the Packers don't come back and win this, it would be an all-around very rough weekend for Wisconsin sports. Like this is, I got my show after this, and my mental being, I don't think I can handle all of this sadness leading up. Like we have 10 penalties on the game already. The Packers 10 penalties on this game. Like I they beat themselves. They beat themselves. That's what they do. Now it's 4th and 5. We're going for it from our own freaking 35. This is, oh man, this is bad. Yeah, Washington. I like Washington. I like that. Let's go Washington.
Yeah,
I like that one.
yeah. Washington is definitely one of the good surprises from this season so far. I mean, Anthony's coming in with a question already. Is this the year for the Lions in the Super Bowl?
Okay, yes. Like the Lions, I think are the one team that I think right now could rival the Kansas City Chiefs, like 100%. Like right now, if I had to pick who could beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, Lions. Like that'd be my hands down answer. I'm just telling you now, don't shoot off the Packers yet because this team is playing so undisciplined and so crappy that they're killing themselves in games right now. They have a lot of talent on both sides of the
Mm-hmm.
football. They have a good D coordinator. They have a good head coach. Like they just shoot themselves in the foot. And now we have our fourth drop snap of the game right now. We have a backup, technically not even a backup center. We have Elton Jenkins, who usually plays guard. He slides over to center because Josh Myers is out. So everything that could go wrong for Green Bay is going wrong in this game right now. But yes, to answer the question, long story short there, the Lions, it feels like they're a year to go to the Super Bowl and have a chance to win it. But if the Packers figure out their own crap at this point, which they're finally starting to do, they're driving down the field here too late, too
Mm-hmm.
little, too late. But I mean, don't write the Packers off. I never write the 49ers off until it's all said and done because somehow they'll find a way back into the mix there. I don't trust the Vikings as far as I can throw them. Washington's a year away, I think. I think they're the Packers from last year. They're a year away. I still think the Packers might be a year away as I watch them here. Who else am I missing out there in the NFC? I don't think I'm missing anybody else major at this point right now. I don't know about Philly. I am
Yeah.
the whole NFC West. I am at loss for right now. Like Seattle looks good, then they don't. The Cardinals could beat anybody on any given night, and then the next night they could lose to the Jaguars. Like that's just how the Cardinals play right now. There's just so many hit or miss teams right now, and that's including my Packers. That is including my Packers right now. The most complete, well put together, well ran team in the NFC is the Lions. So if it continues like this, yes, the Lions are the team that is going to at least be in the Super Bowl this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I feel like the way that they play, the physical nature, the lining up, they'll run the ball down your throat. I feel like that's something that carries January and February. And Jared Goff, when asked to make throws, he's super accurate. He doesn't force anything. And the biggest killer for a lot of teams in the playoffs are turnovers because every turnover is just magnified even more once you get there. So they have a winning formula. It's just going to be, Dan Campbell and this group that are still kind of progressing. Are they ready for that spotlight? Because right now, if the playoffs were to start next week, the Lions would be like the favorites in the NFC. And for a group and an organization that hasn't been used to that, that can be a lot to overcome, especially when you might face close games in the playoffs against teams that are lower seeded, that really tests you as a squad mentally. So we'll see what goes on with them. But right now, I agree with you. I would take the Lions to make the Super Bowl. Anthony has another comment. Did Derek Carr upset his wide receiver to get another concussion? So yeah, so Olave gets hurt, and Michael Thomas goes off on social
Michael
media.
Thomas can shut up. Michael Thomas can go away. He's already away. Just go away. Go farther away. Like, done with him.
Don't know what that was about, but I I don't know this Saints team, the whole organization. It seems like they're at like a breaking point. Whether it's Dennis Allen, it's Derek Carr, it's just whatever. I yeah, just saw that drop. That's yeah, that was brutal.
That was like,
Um,
okay, a little bit behind him. Yeah, it should have been led
that's
a
the catch
little
you have to
bit
make.
there. You got to make the catch. I mean, son of a gun. Wicks, dude. Oh, wow. Like wide open. There's nobody in the area code. Oh, man. And now it's 4th and 1. I just don't understand. 2nd and 1,
Yeah.
3rd and 1 there. Why do you not just give it to, I get there's 10 minutes left in the game. You got to score fast, everything like that. Give it to Jacobs, run up the middle, set the offense up fast, and then go for it again. Like, you got 1st down now. You have 4 plays, essentially, to get the touchdown. Now you're down to 4th and 1. Now you just burned a timeout. Why? Because you can't set up crap. Now it's 4th and 1, and now you got to try and get a yard here. So now you're going to go back to the ground and pound. I'm lost with that one. But to answer the question about the Derek Carr thing, I know. I'm sorry. This game's got me irritated right now. To answer the Derek Carr thing, I mean, I've said it about Jordan Love. I've said it about other quarterbacks before. Sometimes they make throws where it's almost like they're protecting themselves and they put their receivers in bad spots with bad throws.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I mean, that's football. I mean, you're gonna have an arid throw one time where your receiver's got to go up in traffic to try and make that catch, and he's gonna get clocked. And it's the sad realization of football, I guess. That is the sad realization of football. And Josh Jacobs, I really hope he got that 1st down. I really do. I don't think he did. I am sad now. But yes, Derek Carr, he upsets Michael Thomas, but Michael Thomas can go away.
Right. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, when's the last time we heard anything? I mean, when's the last time you seen Michael Thomas, first off? And I was just like, it just seems like he's just kicking Derek Carr while he's down right now. Because, yes, no one wanted to see Olave go out like that. But
right.
I don't know if I want to put all that on Derek Carr like the way Michael Thomas apparently wants to. So, yeah, Michael Thomas can just stay away. Yeah. So Anthony's asking who's more in trouble. So he said Saints or Cowboys, but he meant to say the Raiders or the Cowboys.
The Raiders are a dumpster fire, to answer that question. Long story short, the Cowboys, honestly, we're going to get into that game here, but the Cowboys didn't. Their defense sucks. Like, that front on their defense without Micah Parson and Lawrence is absolutely terrible. They had drives. They sustained drives. The run game, they got the run game going a little bit today. CD's hurt. Dak goes out with injury. Cooper Rush put a couple balls in, pretty good spots to catch for his, technically second string receivers at that point. I didn't half them guys. It's like they're second stringers, and they dropped passes. They couldn't reach out and catch that ball. And I know some of them were, iffy passes by any means, but the Cowboys, against the Falcons today, I thought they actually, for losing, put a better performance together than what we've seen. Like, they got the run game going. They kind of established that. They killed themselves with penalties. They set themselves up in bad spots. Dak goes out. CD's hurt. It was just a disastrous scenario for them. But, looking at the Raiders team right now, they got, what do they have going for them? What on that team do they have going? They have Max Crosby. Okay, great.
Yeah.
You don't have a quarterback. You don't have a running back. You have Brock Bowers. I have Bowers on my fantasy team. Like, he puts up pretty good points there in the tight end room. You have Brock Bowers. Outside of that, wide receivers, what do you have? Offensive line, what do you have? There is not a whole lot going in the right direction for the Raiders. At least with the Cowboys, they can, probably pay their way back into it. But, man, that just, wow.
Yeah, I would easily say the Cowboys, only because I think the Raiders know they had to like strip away a lot of what was there to kind of start fresh. So you would assume this coming draft they look for a quarterback. They obviously need a wide receiver. They moved on from Devontae Adams. They have they have a lot of guys there who are okay in terms of being like number twos and number threes. They need to go find a legit number one. Defensively, you have Max Crosby, but then not a lot else on top of that. So they're kind of at the basement trying to build up the foundation. The Cowboys, remember, this was supposed to be an all in season. Over the past couple of years, it was supposed to be a group that was supposed to be contending for that elusive Super Bowl that Jerry Jones has been looking for a while. And now they look like more of a mess than basically almost anybody, not only in the NFC than maybe in football itself. So I think the Cowboys are in more trouble, even with like high priced talent that's on that team for the performances that they're putting out there. So I guess going off of that, let's talk about Falcons and the Cowboys because, like you said, uh, the Cowboys, I guess, based off of recent performances, they didn't look terrible. I mean, well, not. I wouldn't say they didn't look terrible. They didn't look like as bad in certain
There you
spots
go.
today
There you go.
as they have recent weeks. But they're still a team that's a mess. Dak Prescott's getting a lot of attention for camera catching him on the sidelines saying that we suck. So he's saying all the things that any of us who have seen the Cowboys play have said as well. But so I guess, yeah, what would you think about the game in general? Do you think it was a bit of a step forward for the Cowboys? Do you think maybe the Falcons maybe let their foot off the gas a little bit and got a little complacent? Like, I don't know. Where do you put this on the spectrum for, I guess, these two teams? I think these are two teams that people have a lot of questions about. Like, how good are the Falcons actually? And just how poor are the Cowboys?
The Cowboys defense is atrocious. Like their offense got, they made it 14-10. And then, going out of that second half, then all of a sudden the Falcons would go down and score. And then you had the Cowboys would go down, they'd add a couple points on there. And then all of a sudden, bam, all of a sudden the Falcons are going to score again. And it's just like every time that the Cowboys had an answer, they would just get answered right back. Like the Cowboys defense could not stop anything. It couldn't stop a nosebleed out there. Like that defensive front is bad. But Bijan could do anything he wanted to do out there. I don't know what's going on with what's his name? I just was thinking Trevon Diggs for the Cowboys, but he is, just downright bad. I mean, that reporter who asked him about, I can't remember what he was asking about that last time out there, but then Trevon got all, pissy with him. He was 100% correct. He was 1,000% correct to ask him questions because I'm watching him out there in coverage, and he's a big reason why they're being exploited out there. So I do not like to play him right now. That defensive line, if they get a guy like Parsons back or they get a guy like Lawrence, maybe that helps. The offense for the Cowboys, watching them in this game, I don't want to speak highly of the offense, but that Dowell guy, I mean, for the offense there, that Rico Dowell, he played a good game. I mean, he was running hard. He looked good. Bringing in Delvin Cook, he screwed them over on a couple plays. He was not supposed to be in the huddle. They had 12 guys on the field, so then they got penalized for that. Some of those little things that you don't really you take advantage of, right? I'm watching the Packers right now, all these pre-snap penalties. Those penalties came back to bite Dallas in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to look at how many penalties they actually had in this game. Let's see here. They had 9 for 55 yards compared to 4 for the Falcons. That's a huge difference. That is a huge difference right there, especially when you're playing, rough football already. When you hurt yourself even more, like it's so hard for the offense to even find a groove at that point. It seemed like they would find a groove and then all of a sudden, bam, false start or illegal formation. And all of a sudden they're moving back again, holding. You can't control holding. There's holding on every play in the NFL. It's just when they want to call it. But I mean, just those simple, silly mistakes in these games here that just kill the Cowboys. And some people love it. Some people don't love it. If you're a Cowboy fan, you don't love that at all. But I mean, you win time of possession today. Total yards, you had more total yards than the Falcons did. You had 378 compared to 310. But your third down efficiency, you were 3 for 13. At one point, you didn't have a third down completion. You didn't have a third down converted in the game. Like you had all your first downs coming on first and second down. So just so many issues back and forth for this team. And I mean, man, oh man, like I want to say that they completely suck because it makes my day when I see Jerry Jones and them just lost for the world. But I just, It's not Mike McCarthy that's causing these problems. It's a lack on that defense right now. That defense is just atrocious to watch. I don't know if it was Dan Quinn leaving or what, but that defense is bad. They are bad, bad. And man, oh man, like the Falcons played a good game. Like, not bad. They didn't play bad, but I'm not going to say the Falcons took the foot off the gas. I'm going to say that the Dallas Cowboys had a reasonable chance to win this football game, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't find a way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess using foot off the gas was a little much, but
No, no,
just like
I
look,
mean, it's reasonable. It's reasonable.
yeah,
Like, you get up to a bigger lead, you're like, did they take the foot off the gas? That's why the Cowboys were able to hang in it. And I just think the Falcons were the better, not so good team. Like, that's just I coming out of this, I did not see the Falcons as a real dangerous team either.
yeah, I think okay, I think that's fair as well. Because like even looking at the numbers, like the Cowboys who have struggled to run the ball all season got decent production from the running game. Like you said, Dowdle was really good for them. I mean, they averaged 6.5 yards a carry, 137 rushing yards. This was out, Zeke, who was left home because of whatever, and Dalvin Cook, who's I don't know, he's trying to contribute, I guess we'll say.
Yep.
But then even looking outside of that, like you said, total yards, the Cowboys won that battle. Time possession, they won it, and even with all that, they still lose in the end. So they are a team that, like, the cupboard's not completely bare in terms of talent on the team. It's just that they're just not a good team. They're underachieving. They're one of the bigger disappointments in the league, you'd have to say. And that would only depend on if you thought they were a good team going into the season. Like, I didn't think much of the Cowboys anyway. I don't know if it was
They didn't
going to
make a
look this
move.
bad.
Like, how do you go through an offseason
Yeah,
without making a move? Like, nothing. Nothing.
especially
You
when you're
thought
Jerry
Ezekiel
Jones,
Elliott
who
was going
loves
to
that
carry the
attention.
backfield. Yes. Like, your
Yeah,
backfield's got Ezekiel Elliott, and you're like, oh, I hope he gets back to his prime. He's been past his prime for years now. And then you get the whole
yes,
Derrick Henry crap. Oh, well, he didn't fit our system. I build a system around him then. I don't care. Build it around him.
yeah,
Like, that is the most piss poor excuse I have ever heard out of anybody for not going and getting a guy. Like, you're telling me Jerry couldn't, get the money out there for him? I bet you he could have found the money for him.
exactly. And there was a few plays in that game that were just horrible. That look, the 4th and 1 where they ran an end around with CeeDee Lamb and he lost like 6 yards. And I saw that play and I immediately was like, yeah, imagine if they had Derrick Henry there. 4th and 1 is a gimme for Derrick Henry. But Jerry Jones made his decisions. We'll have to see what this upcoming offseason looks like for them.
Oh, unload
But yeah,
everything. He's going to unload the world. Mike McCarthy gone. The whole coaching staff gone.
yep.
He's going to open up the
Dak's
checkbook
probably
to the
gone.
world
Like
again.
yeah,
He
he's gonna
hopes
do
so.
everything. Yeah.
Why is Cooper Rush your backup quarterback? Like, that's what I've never understood. Why is there not a decent, like, you didn't go and draft anybody? You didn't find some random dude at the back end of a draft to just throw
Mm-hmm.
in there. Why is it Cooper Rush? Why are you sticking? It's just it's terrible management. That's what it is. And the problem with the Cowboys is that Jerry Jones is running it. Right? He's an owner. He signs
Yes.
the checks. I need him to sign the checks. That's it. Look at all the good organizations. Who runs them? Outside of the Patriots when they had Bill Belichick running the show, right? But you got GMs who are in charge, right? Look at the Packers with Gutekunst. Now, I'm not gonna, I don't want to speak too highly on the Packers right now because, well, we're watching this crap show here. Why is that the throw that you make on? Whatever. I don't even care. I don't even care. Anthony talking about CD not being a true number one. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Anthony says that he's a number one when he has a good number two next to him. And I think with the wide receiver group, that is a key point where they lost like Gallup and they lost some of these other guys who I think they didn't necessarily probably respect as much as they should have now that they don't have him and you see what the offense looks like. Problem is,
Wow.
I think in CD's mind, he's a number one. So I don't know if the Cowboys would go into next season looking for a number one to push him to number two on the depth chart. But they need to get receivers in Dallas. Nobody scares you on that team. Even CD had some drops today, and it's just like it's just a mess all around in terms of talent standpoint at the skill positions. Running backs aren't good enough. Wide receivers aren't good enough. I mean, Ferguson at tight end, I think he's okay, but I feel like they could benefit from another tight end. And until Jerry Jones realizes that and does anything about it, I think this is what the next couple of seasons could possibly look like.
Well, I CD's a one. It's hard. It is. It's extremely hard sometimes to be a number one in a system where you have nobody else and everything. With the Cowboys right now, they're a pass first offense. They have no running game. So how easy is it for defenses to scheme up for? I only have to
Yeah.
watch out for CD, and after that, Jake Ferguson's going to bust me off for a couple. But then you got Turpin. Turpin gave up halfway through the game tonight. He came out. He came out because he was tired. Now I get you punt return and everything, but he dropped a touchdown pass. You look at Jalen Brooks. He ain't the guy. Tolbert ain't the guy. Forney ain't the guy. Like, there's so many guys on here you go through and say they ain't the guy, right? Even Brandon
Mhm.
Cooks being in there, he's on the injury report right now for him. Brandon Cooks being in
Yeah.
there would help right now. Just somebody else in there to take that pressure off of him being that number one guy right now. And that's what I kind of like about the Packers is that they have so many guys who you don't even know who the number one guy is. I think it's Romeo Doubs. The next guy says Jaden Reed. The next guy says Christian Watson could be that guy. And if Jordan Love keeps throwing the ball like that, one of these receivers is probably going to die. But that's besides the point right now. I mean, you have systems like that. You can't have a true number one sometimes if you don't have a supporting cast. Like, you got to have somebody in there. Even, Ayuk with the 49ers, if you don't have Jennings in there too, Ayuk's not as effective because you're just putting all your guys on Ayuk. You only have to watch out for him. It's like you got to have exterior weapons outside of him. So, the book's still unwritten. Could he be a number one? Could he be a number two? Truthfully, I don't know. But I mean, I'd take CD Lamb. Be honest with you, I'd take him. I wouldn't take the crap that comes with him, but I'd take CD
Mhm.
Lamb, the player, because when I watched him today, I mean, they were driving and he's like, put me back in. And they're like, no, we ain't going to put you back in. Like, you're hurt. We're not going to put you back in. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you got to have a supporting cast. And right now, the Cowboys don't have a supporting cast. They don't have a run game. It's Dak and it's CD against the world at this point. And I mean, Dak's not that good. CD's not that good. They ain't going to be able to make magic happen without a supporting cast.
Yeah. Uh,
I don't even think Watson
that's
was last year, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure it was Jaden Reed last year. Jaden Reed, I'm pretty darn sure led the team in basically everything last year. Watson was injured. Watson was like not that dog last year. He had some good games. I'll give you that. He had some good games. But I'd take
well.
Reed
I think
last year
with
over Watson.
I think with the unknowns with the wide receiver group in Green Bay, I feel like a lot of people put Watson as one, thinking he was probably the most talented of the three. But I agree with you. He's had his own injury issues, so it's been tough to tell what he is. So I do think it's probably like Dobbs then Reed then Watson. I might say.
Yeah, because Wicks can't catch a
Uh,
ball. He struggles to catch the ball. If Wicks could develop the ability of stronger hands, which I don't know if that's a real thing, but if he could develop that ability, Wicks could be a dynamite number 2, 3
mhm,
in a lot of teams. But because he's got the ability to blow a top off a defense, he's got the athletic ability to go up and get a ball for you. It's just a problem of bringing that ball down when it's all said and done that kills Wicks. Reed's just, I mean, he's a slot guy. He's your slot guy. Like, he's not a number one like on the outside like you're looking for. Dobbs is your sure-handed dude. Like, you
mhm,
you figure out who your number one is when it's a third and short and you run a slant route and that's the guy you're going to. Like, that's when you figure out who that number one is, and that's Romeo Dobbs for you. I think he's that sure-handed dude you're throwing to. Watson's the guy where you want him to blow the top off a defense. Like, that is why
mhm,
Watson's on the payroll. That's why he's there. You want that ability to blow a top off. And, each one, that's what, you love about certain wide receiver groups is like the Packers, where you have guys that can blow a top off the defense. You have guys that are better suited for red zone or short little stuff. And then you have guys like Jaden Reed who do it all and get involved in the run game. You got to have that mix. And that's what we're talking about with the Cowboys right now, where you have CD Lamb who can, he can blow a top off a little bit, but he's got good hands in the
mhm.
red zone too. But you don't have anything else. You don't have anything else besides that. So it's so tough. And the Packers are going to kick an onside kick here, 24-14 right now. Not, 2 for 23 on the season are guys on onside kicks. Here we go. Here we go. All
Yeah, I
right,
mean that.
boys.
I mean that
All
kick
right,
was
boys.
just non-competitive as he kicked out of bounds. But um, I guess we can go to another game here.
What was
As
that?
John,
Why are you booting it out of bounds? Now there's a flag. Now they're gonna get because it went out of bounds, right? They're gonna get the flag on
yeah,
him. Where's it gonna go? Is it gonna go back to the 40? Like you call a flag, how do you advance it on an onside kick? Because the
I
penalty
believe
goes
the
up to
I
the
think the
40-yard
option
line.
goes. I guess the option would go to the Lions take the penalty and move the ball. I guess it's like 5 yards or something, or make Green Bay re-kick. I don't know. I can't remember
Oh,
what that
yeah,
rule
they have
is.
to re-kick it. Yeah, you're right. They would have had to re-kick it. So it just, I mean, basically turned into declining the penalty, and now
Yeah,
Lions have the
you
ball.
just take the
Okay,
ball. Yeah.
yeah, that was
Possible
completely
upset.
pointless play.
Possible upset. Jacksonville over the Eagles. 2 minutes, 5 points.
When did that
Hey,
happen?
Jacksonville has slowly gotten back into that game. I have been paying attention to it a little bit, and
The
yeah,
last time I saw
about
Saquon
half
get a
an hour
hurdle
ago,
backwards,
yeah, right,
that was
and
the
it's
last
like
time I
about an
saw
hour.
anything was a backwards hurdle, and I was like, oh, that game's out of hand now after that. And it's like, what?
Yeah, and
Jacksonville
Tiki,
has the
I think
ball
Tiki's
too.
on
Oh
the.
man.
Yeah, Jacksonville is driving towards midfield, but Tiki's on that broadcast, and I remember Tiki did the whole thing in the offseason when Saquon signed with Philly and said he's dead to me, and then he had to watch Saquon do the reverse hurdle, and he was like, "Oh my god, this guy's so good," and I was like, "Oh yeah, now you want to praise him? Okay, Tiki, I got it."
I didn't know Tiki
But
Barber was on calls. He does CBS games.
I I honestly had forgotten all about him, and somebody was like, "Hey, Tiki, what'd you think of that?" And I was like, "Tiki." I'm like, the only one Tiki I could think of, and then he started talking. I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh yeah, that's Tiki Barber for sure." I did not know he was still doing broadcasts, but he's hanging around somewhere. Anthony's kind of in the same boat as you because he said, "When did Jacksonville score 23 points?"
Well, right now they just got a pass interference call on the Eagles, got enforced, so it moved it. Holy crap, they're driving again. They're driving, and the Packers are not getting a stop here. Well,
I
this
mean,
has been
it's kind
a
of hard to think that
sad
it
weekend in Wisconsin sports, my friend. Sad weekend.
could be worse. You could be in New
Yeah,
York.
could be worse. Could be. What'd you guys do? Lose every game this weekend? Sorry, so did we.
Yeah, so looking at the Eagles Jags. Okay.
Let's
Let's see.
hop into some games, Kyle. Let's hop into some
Yes,
games
let's
here.
do that. I mean, some of these games were not all that impressive, but I guess a
No,
couple of teams.
the only reason why I watched the Falcons and the Cowboys game was because the other channel I had was the Ravens and Broncos, and that
Yeah,
game was good for about the first half.
yeah, exactly. So we kind of know what happened with that one. I mean, we could talk Cardinals as they did just beat the Bears 29-9. And don't look now, but the Cardinals are 5-4. And I think they are probably the most baffling team in the league. So I'm gonna ask you this. Who are the Cardinals? Like what are they?
The Cardinals are my Milwaukee Brewers. That is the closest comparison I can make to them. On one night, they can beat anybody out there. They could beat the Yankees. They could beat the Dodgers. You could throw whatever you want at them. They're going to beat them. And then the next night, guess what? They're going to lose to, let's just say, the Pirates, right? They're going to lose to some
Mhm.
craptastic team. This is the Arizona Cardinals. One night, they're going to go and beat the world. They're going to go and beat the world. And the next night, it's like they are going to lose to the Jaguars. They're going to lose. Well, the Eagles are going to lose to the Jaguars, but they're going to lose to some, craptastic team with no quarterback or down to a third string, and they don't even know what they're doing. Like, that is the Arizona Cardinals in a nutshell right now. Now, the Bears in a nutshell, Eberflus is a terrible head coach. He is terrible. Like, you want to succeed if you are the Chicago Bears, find a new head coach. Eberflus is terrible. That is going to lead to the downfall of the Bears this season is his coaching, because his coaching absolutely atrocious. That game against
Mhm.
Washington, he should have called a timeout. He should have called a timeout, got his guys together, understood what was going on in the situation, and I mean, just terrible coaching for Matty Eberflus. But I mean, the Cardinals, I could see him as a playoff team. I could see it. They have the Jets up next. They have the Seahawks after that. They got the Vikings, then the Seahawks again. They got the Patriots and Panthers left on the schedule. Like this is definitely a team that could find their way into the. Oh my God, I am just. They
Well, I
could
will say
definitely find
the
their way into the
Cardinals are
postseason.
now first in the NFC West, so they are currently the fourth seed in the NFC.
I don't trust the Seahawks. The 49ers, once Christian McCaffrey comes back, okay, now we can once they start getting some of their weapons back, now we can fully like
Mm-hmm.
judge that team. But right now, the way that it sits, the Cardinals are a team to be reckoned with in that division and in the in the NFC. Like they are a team that could find their way in as like a wild card, or even if all the chips fall right for them, they could find their way in as a division winner because the 49ers have kind of dug themselves a hole here because of the
Yeah.
injuries.
Yep. And just an update: Trevor Lawrence threw an interception in the end zone, so it looks like the Eagles are going to escape that one with a
Oh,
win.
oh no. Come on,
Yeah.
Trev.
Yeah.
Come on. They're putting the knee
Look,
down.
they put a scare into the Eagles, which means the Eagles will now go to 6-2. So they'll be a half game behind Anthony's Commanders in that division. But yeah, I think the Cardinals. I think if you look at them on paper, like Kyler Murray is talented. The questions are always, how mentally prepared is he to actually play on Sundays? Marvin Harrison, really good young wide receiver. Sometimes his body language is atrocious, but he's young. James Conner won't blow you away as a running back, but he's effective. McBride might be the biggest surprise at the tight end position, like how good he is and how his ability to get open, and he's become kind of Kyler Murray's favorite target, especially once they get into the red zone. So I think offensively, and throwing in, I guess, Kyler Murray's ability to extend plays and run, they are kind of a dangerous team. And I think that's going to be the case if they were to make the playoffs against some of these potential playoff teams. But it's just only because we've seen Kyler Murray for a couple of years now have a good game and then have like 4 or 5 bad ones in a row. The jury is still out on them. But like you said, with that division, the Rams had injury issues and dug themselves a hole. The Niners did the same thing. The Seahawks, I think they're going to look back on this season and realize they missed an opportunity because early on, they were playing the best in that division, but they weren't winning games. And now it looks like it might be the Cardinals' turn to maybe go on a little run and see if they can create enough separation that they could literally walk into a playoff spot. Anthony reminds us here, November 14th, you get Eagles versus Commanders. Before the season, nobody would have thought about that as being a big game, but looking at it now, that's going to be huge. And it might tell us a lot about Jaden Daniels as well. Because for a rookie quarterback and the way that they're playing, sitting at 7-2, now that calendars turn over to November, once you get around Thanksgiving, I think the good teams start turning into playoff mode, and we'll see if there's like another gear for the Commanders once we get to that point in the season. But Anthony, I will say I will be interested to see what Washington looks like. So the 14th, that'd be 2 weeks from now. Okay, something to look forward to. So I did ask the chat, like, can the Cardinals make the playoffs? So we kind of ran through that. Right now, if you had to take them out of the West, they probably are the best playing team right now, but it's been a division where everybody's kind of had their moments for a couple of weeks. And let's see. There are the Rams. And the Rams are beating the Seahawks, so the Rams could go to 4-4, which would drop the Seahawks to 4-5. But let's go into another game. I guess we could talk Bills Dolphins, only because I know the Dolphins are 2-6, but this is something that I've noticed, and I don't know, Mike McDaniel might have the answer for this or whatever. What's the deal with Jalen Waddle? Why is it that all of a sudden they can't get him the ball? Like Tyreek Hill, it looked like for a lot of this game he was going to have a crappy game, but he ended up with 4 catches for 80 yards, which you'll take. But Jalen Waddle had 2 catches for -4. You can't tell me that you can't scheme to get that guy who's as talented as he is open. Like Odell Beckham had 3 catches. Like Mike McDaniel needs to answer this. Like, what is going on with the offense? We thought when Tua came back, it would kind of help answer a lot of that. And Tua was 25 for 28 for 231, 2 touchdowns. I mean, you'll take that, but they got to figure out a ways to get Jalen Waddle involved in that team.
I
And
don't
Buffalo
think
goes
Mike
to step this
McDaniel.
week.
I don't think Mike McDaniel has the answer for that one for you.
Yeah.
Something about this season where Tua goes out and this offense looks like complete just I don't even know what to even call this offense, but it doesn't look anywhere near anything good. It really spoke, what Mike McDaniel's got going on down there, and I don't trust him as a play caller right now because I've seen it. Right, we saw it without Tua. He doesn't know how to even get Tyler Huntley to look semi decent within an offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Huntley's not the greatest quarterback in the world, but you got to find a way. And we saw it during those weeks where he struggled. Now we're seeing this with you're talking about Waddle there, even Tyreek Hill having slow starts. There isn't a point where we're sitting there and we're saying to ourselves, man, like, why, this offense looks good. This offense is flowing. Like, this team does not look anything like the team we saw last season. This team doesn't look anything like them. Last season, we saw a team that was explosive, and we're like, the only thing that can deter this team is cold weather. Well, this season, it's anybody with a competent enough brain to throw a defense out there, right? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, we're questioning Waddle's productivity right now. We got to be questioning Mike McDaniel and his job security at this point because there is something eerily wrong right now in
Mm-hmm.
Miami, and it's not getting fixed week after week. Today they played against the Bills. It was a good game, right? Bass saves them with a field goal late in that one. Otherwise, the Dolphins were right in it. So, I mean, you want to say that they're on the right track coming back there. They're on the right track again, but you're talking about one of the bigger playmakers that last season were like, holy crap, this guy burst on the scene there,
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Waddle, and him and Tyreek Hill are one of the best 1-2 combos in the league. And now it's like, well, we don't even have a 1-2 combo at this point. Like, we have Tyreek Hill, but we can't even get him involved half the time. And now we're struggling to get Waddle even involved inside the offense, and we got Odell Beckham catching more passes than he can. It's
Yeah.
okay if it's, once in a while, but you're looking at his targets over the last, I mean, he has 38 targets on the season. He has 38 targets on the season, 28 catches on the season, 28 for 38. That is not very good for a guy of his caliber right now. And if I'm Jalen Waddle, I'm inside there saying, do you guys want to trade me? Do you guys have any need for me anymore? Because I'd be okay if you let me go here.
As John said, they wanted to keep it on the ground in colder weather. 31 versus 25 plays ground versus air. I mean, yes, I get that, playing up in Buffalo, but almost just looking at the whole season. So Tyreek Hill has 56 targets, okay. A Chan, which I feel like that's the way that's pronouncing it now, 42 targets. Jonnu Smith has 40 targets. And then it obviously drops off from there. And then Jalen Waddle is sitting at 38 targets. So we'll see. Can they figure that out? But they are 2-6. I feel like the season's lost. I don't see the Dolphins going on some crazy run. I think if you're the Bills, you might as well pop the champagne on that division because you're 7-2. Next, the Jets at 3-6. I know there are some fans out there of Aaron Rodgers who think they could go on some run and make it interesting, but I think it's safe to say the Bills win that division. So if I was to ask you, in terms of the hierarchy of the AFC, where do the Bills fall for you right now?
Where do the Bills fall for me right now?
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, my number, I don't. It's you can't bet against Kansas City Chiefs until they lose a football game or somebody proves me wrong. And the only head-to-head matchup I have between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens right now, the Kansas City Chiefs won that game. Now, would I like to say that the Baltimore Ravens are better? Sure, but their secondary is bad. Like that secondary for
Mm-hmm.
the Ravens is not good. So if I had to do a betting match with who's going to win a game, Patrick Mahomes with his talented arm, and doesn't matter who's playing wide receiver, I'm going to make it work, or the Ravens secondary, I'm going to take the Chiefs. So until somebody proves me wrong, the Chiefs are number one, the Ravens are number
Mhm.
two. The Bills fit into like that 3 or 4 range right now. They're like that 3 or 4. I don't. Do you put them ahead of the Steelers? Because the Steelers have looked better as of late with Russell Wilson playing and a great defense on the backside of that. The Houston Texans right now, they have a serious problem with that offensive line. So they are 6-3 right now, but the Indianapolis Colts sitting there at 4-4. I tell you what now, the Vikings are struggling right now, and their slot corner is terrible. If Josh Downs has a big game and Joe Flacco beats them, the Texans are in jeopardy to lose that AFC South. Because if the Colts can find a way to even play good football, the Texans are struggling mightily at this point. So, that's a teeter division there. I think there's like 4 teams right now. Yeah, 4 teams. There are 4 teams right now in the AFC where I'm like, they're, good. They're going to make the playoffs. Outside of that, I have no clue. I think the Texans are still going to make the playoffs. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the Texans are going to make the playoffs. But if I had to pick 4 teams right now where I'm like, these ones are for sure a playoff spot, I'm going, Bills. I have the Ravens. I have the Kansas City Chiefs. And I have the Steelers just because the defense is good enough and Russell Wilson just has to play essentially average to maybe a little bit above average
Mhm.
football for them to look decent, because you have that good of a defense. You only have to score about 20 points a game to win. And that's what they're doing. They're doing just enough to win football games. I don't trust anybody else. I really don't. I don't trust anybody else in the AFC. And I love the Texans. I love CJ Stroud and that Texans team. But right
Mhm.
now, I mean, watching them this last game out against the Jets, who the Jets you're in a game where the Jets needed that one more than you, but the
Mhm.
Texans didn't prove to me in any way, shape, or form that they were better than the Jets. They didn't prove to me. The Jets on paper should be a fantastic team. They're not.
Yeah.
That is a mess. And they found a way to beat you in a game where they tried to give you every way to beat them. So that Texans team is they're nerve wracking right now. And it actually makes, sophomore slump is a thing. Sophomore slump is a thing. And I think CJ Stroud is kind of in that sophomore slump. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think that Jordan Love is in that sophomore slump too right now a little bit, where you're still a good quarterback. You're still throwing touchdown passes, but there's those little things in between where you're kind of lacking on. Doesn't help Jordan Love's injured right now. That doesn't help at all with his case.
Mhm.
But I think that's the case that we're seeing in Houston and a terrible offensive line. So, I mean, yeah, long story short, to answer that, they're like 3-4, just like John said, they're 3-4 in the AFC right now. They're not an easy out, but I don't put them up there with the Ravens or the Chiefs right now.
Okay. Yeah, and Anthony does have a next topic for us, so we'll save that one, Anthony. I'm not gonna bypass that one because when I look at the Bills, I do think the interesting part of it is yes, the Chiefs are right there as the current champions, undefeated. We give them their own like territory. After that is it is kind of a jumbled mess depending on maybe what you're a fan of. You will probably rank these teams differently. I agree with you. I think the Steelers, because of how good their defense is, especially TJ Watt, who looks just unblockable at this point, he single handedly could derail a lot of these offenses. And if Russ continues to play kind of the confident way that he's playing right now, they look good. And Pittsburgh's not a place that a lot of people will want to go to in January. So they are definitely a dangerous team. And I could probably say the same thing about Orchard Park with Buffalo. I agree with you about the Texans. I was very high on Texans stock going into the season, but they just like they're winning games, and even when they win games, they don't look all that good. And I think that's a dangerous way going on in the season to rely on whether it's a fluke play here or there to win games. Like they are very talented. I think for them, they need Nico Collins back. Like that's a big loss for them. And when he does come back, we'll see where they are. I'm not going to completely give up on them yet, but I do think it's interesting what you're saying about the Colts. Like if the Texans drop another couple of games, I think if with Flacco in there for the Colts, they could take advantage of that. I think somebody said in the chat also about the Chargers. You could kind of say the same thing about them. I honestly don't know what the Chargers are either. Like Herbert is a good quarterback, but you watch the Chargers play and Herbert gets beat up every game. There's
Yep.
at least 2 or 3 plays where he takes a hit and it takes him a while to get up, and you're just like, is this guy ever going to be healthy like for a full season to see the full potential? So I think I agree with everybody. Like, you and John said the Bills are probably like third or fourth uh, in the AFC, and I'll keep saying this: the Bengals at 4-5, if they could sneak into the playoffs, I'm not going to count out Joe Burrow in the playoffs with Chase and Higgins and those guys. So
You're just giving
yeah,
the
I
Jets
think
fans hope that when you say something like that, because they got 6 losses right now. They're right behind the Bengals. Like you're giving them that hope. You're giving
yeah,
that feeling that there's
no,
still
no,
a shot.
no, no. Joe Burrow is like penthouse, while Aaron Rodgers is
Yeah, I know. I know.
down
I've
basement
seen it.
floor.
Seen
Yeah,
it. Front
so
row and center.
so Jets fans may think me saying that about the Bengals gives them hope. Trust me, I've closed the book on the Jets a while ago. Not opening that one.
Yeah.
I think this is a good analogy. The Bills are the Eagles. Yes, I can definitely agree with that. Like I said, we'll get back to Anthony's topic here really quickly. So have to be top five, but who makes you say who are they?
I think he
I
might
guess
be talking
yes,
about the Texans. The Texans, maybe. Is that
yeah,
what he's talking about?
or maybe he's talking about
Yeah, I
the
don't know. We don't know
Bills.
who they are. If you're talking Texans, I have no idea who they are.
Yeah,
Like they got to figure out something on the offensive line because right now CJ Stroud he can't even stand in the pocket. He's not a I said it after the Packers and Texans game. I said as much as CJ Stroud is running around, he cannot. He's a pocket passer. That's his thing. He's a pocket passer. Jordan Love, you can put pressure on him when he's healthy. He likes to throw on the run. Whereas CJ Stroud loves to stand in the pocket. Well, if you put some pressure on him, he can't do what he wants to do anymore. So, a lot of that, like I said, comes back to that offense. Joe Mixon is somehow having like a fantastic season right now. If Derrick Henry wasn't in the league, Joe Mixon might be in there as one of the best. Is one of the best running backs in football, but he could be up there right now in MVP talks. If it wasn't for Derrick Henry. But I mean, Joe Mixon is playing
hmm
fantastic. The offensive line sucks.
yeah,
It's weird correlation there. But they got to find some help on that offensive line because otherwise, I just don't see a path for the Texans to figuring anything out right now. I just really don't. I think wouldn't you rather, just a thought,
hmm
if you're going to not make the playoffs or stink anyways, wouldn't you just want to be like the number one pick? Wouldn't you just want to be, like I know John said there that the Patriots will not finish last this year. Like, is it more of like a moral victory when you don't finish last, or don't you like you have the number one pick now, right? So you get to go pick somebody cool. Maybe you trade that number one pick for a couple of picks. Like, just I don't know. I'd almost if I sucked, I would rather be the number. You know what they like tank for Tua, right? Like I'd rather tank. Holy cat! Oh my, that guy just got absolutely rocked. The Seahawks are driving. The Seahawks are driving
hmm
right now. But yeah, that's always been something to me where I'm like, if we're gonna suck, wouldn't I
hmm
rather just suck and get the number one pick? Like being second to last doesn't make me feel better. Like that doesn't make me feel better. I'd rather tank for. I mean, you got Drake May, so tank for a wide receiver or something. I don't know.
No, I think it's a definitely a good point, and I think that's something that a lot of Patriots fans are trying to wrestle with right now. Like you obviously want them to win games, but at least the reasonable Pats fans understand that there's like a talent overhaul that's needed. So you want the best pick you can to fill a lot of the gaps, or like you said, dangle a pick out there for extra picks. But I kind of agree with John. Like I don't think they're going to finish in last, and part of that is the hatred of the Jets, and I also just feel like I don't know. The Dolphins, I think, is going to get a lot worse going forward, but we'll see. As a Pats fan, I would like to see them get a top pick, not necessarily have to get a wide receiver, but there's like some really good left tackle out in the draft. Go get one and fix the offensive line, even though the offensive line was okay, I guess, today. But yeah, I don't know. I just like Drake May. Every time he's playing, like my eyes are glued on him, and he's doing stuff every week. I'm like, That's
Just
why they
not
took
that
him.
last
That's why
pick.
he's
Just
the guy.
not that last pick. Just not that
Even on that
last one.
one, he was trying to make a play downfield. I think he'll learn like you have time that you can still
Yep.
move down the field. You don't have to go for it there. So I'm not going
Yep.
to kill
Yep.
him for that one. It was definitely something that he should learn from. All right, so I guess we'll go with this one before going to Anthony's question. John said, I see some growing pains, but let's see what we really need in the draft. Just give up. Do you want to get rid of your coach? I don't want to get rid of Gerard Mayo. I
No,
know.
no. And I'm not
I
asking
know
you to
there are
like
some
give
fans
up.
that want to. I'm not. Yeah.
No, no, no. And I'm not saying like you should just completely throw in the towel and like, throw the practice squad out there. Not by any means at all. Am I saying just to throw it all in? Like
Yeah.
I'm just saying as a perspective standpoint, wouldn't you rather get the number one pick than, just suck a little
Then be
less
like a
than what.
bad team with like the
Yes,
10th pick or
yes.
something. Yeah.
Yes. I'm not saying by any means I want the Patriots to tank. Like, I'm just saying, like, end of the day, wouldn't I rather have the number one pick and then, be able to trade like the number one pick away for the number three and, maybe a second round pick or something different like that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying
Yeah.
give up on it. No.
Yeah. So Anthony wants us to talk about this. What's up with the last year versus the rookie quarterbacks not living up to the hype?
When
Because
you
I guess if you
first come
look at
in,
it, yeah, go ahead.
when you first come in, teams aren't used to you. You have different cadences, you have different aneurysms, right? You do different things, you see the field differently and everything like that. And then all of a sudden you get into your second year and teams they've seen you, right? Defensive coordinators now have this scheme built up for you. It's like I bet you if you look at a lot of these rookie quarterbacks who had great seasons last year, the second time around when they faced like a divisional opponent, guess what? That defensive coordinator knew exactly what you wanted to do and it made it tougher on them. So now it's about, okay, this is where you find out who was actually good and who wasn't good, right? Because now you're going to see who can adjust, right? I don't think we're getting it with CJ Stroud. I really don't, just because we hinted on it, right? The offensive line is bad. Well, if you don't have a good offensive line, you're throwing them to the wolves at that point. Jordan Love, this is technically his second season as the starting quarterback in Green Bay right now, and he's had injury problems. So that derails him, right? And then I'm trying to think
Mm-hmm.
of other rookie quarterbacks that were in there. Anthony Richardson, he's like a glorified running back. I don't know what else to say right there. He is the definition of a running quarterback who doesn't really have the passing. He has the passing ability. He just doesn't have the skill set yet. So maybe that develops, or I don't know. But Anthony Richardson hasn't lived up to anything like that. Who else do we got for second year quarterbacks at this point? Do we have any?
We
Is there
got
any other second year quarterbacks that we're thinking of? Justin Herbert's been for a
Bryce
while.
Young.
Bryce Young hasn't been given a chance. Tell me that he's been given a chance with the Carolina Panthers. Like, they stink. Like, that is just you draft a quarterback, but when you have no offensive line, you have no weapons around him, you have no running back, you have nothing to speak of. I'm sorry, you're not going to have very much success with that. So I don't know if you put him on a good team if it changes. Like, I'm not going to say that Bryce Young's going to all of a sudden be this, rookie of the year candidate last season if he was playing for like the 49ers. But I think if you put him in a good situation, he might be a different quarterback, right? We're seeing that with Sam Darnold right now with the Vikings. Like, all of a sudden he looks like a good quarterback when he didn't look like a good quarterback for how many years? So it's a situational thing sometimes too. We're going to see it with Caleb Williams. Like, mark my words, if they do not get rid of Eberflus, if they do not change what they're doing right now, Caleb Williams will not look good up until that point. Because right now, you can put as many weapons as you want around him. You can put the world around him. You have to have somebody who can call it. And they do not have anybody who can call it in there. Eberflus is a terrible coach. So, I mean, there's a lot of, slumping. It's sophomore slumping, like I said before, going on right now. But I'm not going to sit here and say that, these guys are busts or anything like that. The only guy that I could say could be a bust right now, like pretty much, is Anthony Richardson. Like, I had him on my fantasy team. I was like, this dude is going to have a big year. He's got the running capability. He's got the big arm. And all I've ever seen out of him is the big arm and the running capability. I haven't seen the other, the little things, the being able to make that little cross throw. I just haven't seen those little things out of him. So, Will Levis, we forgot about Will Levis there. I don't know with Will Levis too. I want to hate Will Levis, but I don't hate Will Levis. Terrible offensive line who is young and they're starting to work their way together. No weapons. They lose Derrick Henry. They're in a coaching change. There's just, I mean, we keep naming off guys right now who are in situations where everything's changing and they don't have a lot of help around them. So I'm not calling any of these guys bust at this point. Outside of Anthony Richardson could be a bust because I don't know from his mental standpoint to his ability on the field right now, because you have a guy who checked himself out on 3rd and goal. Like, that's not the guy I want leading my franchise. He just got taken over by Joe Flacco. Now, truth be told, okay, Aiden O'Connell doesn't count. Aiden O'Connell isn't, I don't count him in this. I don't count him in this talk here. All right. I mean, he never really had a big shot coming out of it there. But I mean, you're talking about situations where you have to slowly develop quarterbacks. And I'll tell you this now. The biggest problem in the NFL is that we just expect rookie quarterbacks to come into the league and they're just supposed to all of a sudden be the guy. They have no time to sit behind a guy. All these quarterbacks that we're watching right now, the veterans that we're seeing out there, like Kirk Cousins, or we're seeing guys like Patrick Mahomes, or we're seeing, Joe Burrow didn't really have that grace period, but those guys had the ability to sit behind somebody and learn and have time to learn in the system and get their feet wet in the NFL. And now we're expecting guys like Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams and, all these other young guys to just step in there and just all of a sudden be that guy and lead us to the promised land. Like, now that we got this number 1 pick, it's just going to happen. It doesn't just happen. You got to have a stepping stone for him to get into the league, because as much as people think that college and the NFL are just like this, it's not. There's a step. The old saying used to be, well, the Alabama Crimson Tide could go and beat the 0-16 Browns. Like, that was always the saying. It wouldn't have happened. The Browns would have won. Why? It's a different game. It's faster. The guys are stronger. They're bigger. It's just how it is. So you can't expect quarterbacks to just take that step up and all of a sudden just light the world on fire in that second year. This is their growing pains right now. That's why they have that sophomore slump, is because it's that growing pain. Yes, I do. I really do. I honestly do. Anthony Richardson is more of a bust than Bryce Young to me right now. I could be far-fetched. You might think I'm crazy, but I have seen more than enough of Anthony Richardson, and I have not seen enough of Bryce Young with a competent coach, a competent organization, and competent players around him with an offensive line to actually prove to me that Bryce Young is not anything of a quarterback at all. Like, you give me him on the 49ers, and he sucks, okay, write it off. Write him off. Write him off into the sunset. Anthony Richardson, yes, the Colts don't have a lot, but you got Jonathan Taylor, you got Josh Downs, you have Pittman, you have playmakers around for the Indianapolis Colts, and Stinich is a good coach. Or Steichen, is it Steichen? Is that his name? Steichen there? Steichen, yeah. Stinich, Steichen, all the same. He's a good coach. I have never shot on him. They have a subpar defense by any means. Their front is terrible, but Anthony Richardson has guys, and he's proving to me nothing. Bryce Young has nothing, and he's proven to me nothing. So I can't write him off as a bust until I see it. I got to see him with somebody competent.
Right. And, I mean, look, the 2024 class, it's tough to really grade them necessarily. They're just getting started. But looking at last year and this year's class, so last year it was Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson were your top 3. Then it was like Will Levis, Hendon Hooker. Obviously, we haven't seen Hooker yet, so you can't really talk about him. Then it's like Jake Hayner, Stetson Bennett, Aiden O'Connell. Just looking at the top 3, Young, Stroud, and Richardson versus this past year where you had Daniels, Williams, and May. Which trio do you think will be better 5 years down the line?
What were my options? I was just loading up my PFF. I wanted to see some grades on these quarterbacks. What were my options?
So last year you had Young, Stroud, and Richardson as your top 3 drafted. This past year you had Williams, Daniels, and May. So looking at those 3, the trios from last year and this year, which trio will be better 5 years from now?
Williams, May, Daniels. Who was the
versus
year?
Young,
I keep
Stroud,
blanking.
Richardson.
Young, Stroud, Richardson. You know,
Yeah.
you could. I think the one who's going to carry that first one is Stroud. Stroud's going to carry about as far as he possibly can. That second one, I don't know any. Like Caleb Williams is still open book for me. I don't know. I think Daniels is the best quarterback. It's between him and Stroud. I like Daniels more than I like Williams. I like Daniels more than I like May. I think Daniels is the complete package, dude. I saw it. I saw his arm talent when, yes, the Hail Mary was tipped up in the air and caught in the back of the end zone, but I saw the arm talent. I saw the decision making on the plays before that where, they ran their simple little out routes and that simple things, but he completed those simple out routes, got up to the
Mhm.
line quick, set up the next play, did his thing. He has the ability to be mobile in that pocket there. I know May does too, and so does Williams there. But I like Daniels in that one. I think, honestly, if you had to pick right now, looking at the proof of concept, you have the second, you have the newest class. You have May, you have Williams, and you have Daniels, because if you look right now, those guys are the better option. I think Stroud's going to be with those guys, right? I think if you're looking 5 years down the road, you're like, who is going to have, the most success in this league? I think Stroud's right there with Daniels. And if Williams ever figures it out there, if they find a new head coach, right, then I think he starts to prove it out there. But right now, I would say it'd be the newest one, the newest class.
Right. And even looking at the new class, we haven't seen JJ McCarthy take a snap yet. Bo Nix has had some good times and some not so, but I feel like he might be a little bit ahead of schedule for the Broncos, and we'll see how he finishes his year out. So I think even just looking at the depth of the class, I think this past year will look better than last season's draft quarterback class. John, yes, absolutely. For all these rookies and second year quarterbacks, it's going to be what's around them. Because you said like you have to admit that Washington has more around him: O line, wide receivers, tight ends, and you think Williams just has wide receivers.
He's got
That
Komet.
wasn't the
He's
but
got
that
Komet in
wasn't the
there.
thought about Washington though. A lot of people thought Washington was going to be terrible. I think because Daniels is where he is in his development, he played in college a lot of games. That's helped him in the NFL. He has made some of those guys that are in Washington play better.
Yeah,
Like I said,
I am not going to
when he was
say that
picked,
Daniels has a good wide receiver room. Like you
he
have,
has
okay,
Terry McLaurin.
Terry McLaurin, right? But outside of
Yeah,
that, Noah Brown, okay, like
just
fantastic wide
he's just a
receiver,
guy. Yeah,
and Zakakis in there as your other wide receiver. And then, I mean, Zach Ertz is a solid tight end, but you could say that
yeah.
Caleb Williams, look at their, I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. is not bad, but Austin Eckler, I believe, is on the back end of his career there.
Mm-hmm.
And he was out. Brian Robinson was out today, so Jane Daniels had Eckler in there anyways. And you have Williams in there with DeAndre Swift. You got guys for the offensive line, so that you could blame the offensive line on the Bears, right? That's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. That the Bears have bad management, bad coaching, and they cannot figure out how to put a good team together. Like you can start, they added in all these weapons, and they're just like, if we load up the room, all of a sudden it's just going to work. You can keep loading up the room, but ask the New York Yankees. They keep loading up the room. They keep paying these paychecks. It doesn't just work that way. You got to have developmental programs. You got to have, coaches in there who can develop these guys together. And that is something that the Bears have lost out on, and something that you hinted to there, John, in saying that the Commanders, look at these guys. I mean, these are just guys. These aren't stars. These are guys. And they're making it work. They're finding a way. And that is 100% what you just said there, Kyle. Jane Daniels is ahead of schedule. He's playing like one of the best quarterbacks out there. I mean, you're not saying he's, better than Mahomes or any of them guys,
Right,
but
right.
you could talk about him in conversations with some of your bigger dogs in the leagues right now. I mean, you could talk about him up there, and that's just the way he's playing. They have a good defense, but so do the Bears, right? The Bears have a good defense. So it comes down to quarterback play sometimes too. And I just think Jane Daniels has outplayed a lot of these other quarterbacks to this point.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna disagree with that. I thought Daniels was the best one coming out from the top three there. The Bears decided to go with Williams because that's what their scouting told them.
You
Yeah,
had to.
because
You had to. If you didn't go with
I
him,
mean
you would have
they
been
didn't
like
have
shot off.
to.
Well, but if your management, if you went crazy with it, right? You went crazy with
Hmm.
it. You stuck with Justin Fields and you went out and got an offensive lineman or something crazy, right? A wide receiver. And then all of a sudden, Caleb Williams lights it up with the Panthers or somebody else crappy, right? Or the Patriots. The Patriots get Caleb Williams and all of a sudden he starts to light the world on fire. Well, then you're fired. Like, adios. If Justin Fields doesn't produce, adios. Like, see you later. You're done. You're out of
Hmm.
here. Like, management would have been. So it's like you didn't have to, but you almost had. It's like that. What was that? What's that movie with Kevin Costner? Draft Day. Draft Day, right?
Hmm.
And he calls that guy from Seattle. And he's trying to make that deal to get his picks back, right? He's trying to make that deal to get his picks back, and he calls him that pancake eating mother effer at the end of that. That was so funny. That was like the funniest part of that movie there. But I mean, you watch that and you're like, you had the fans outside, and they're like got the dummy of them, and they're hanging them outside, all that thing. Like he was forced to go and get this guy, right? He was forced to go and get this guy because if not, the fans would have just been like the cry from the fans would have been enough for ownership to say sayonara. So it's like you didn't have to, but you almost had to, just because Caleb Williams was that like crown jewel coming out of the draft. Jane Daniels might have looked better, but Caleb Williams was just that crown jewel. Everybody was like,
Hmm.
this could be the next Patrick Mahomes. Like, watch out. Look at his college stats. He couldn't lead a team to a win, but guess what? He has all these stats. Woohoo. That's why my
Yeah.
fantasy team's name is Caleb Williams Still Sucks. Like, that is why it's
Right.
named that.
Right. I mean, yes, they. I think they made the decision to take a quarterback. I feel like where they didn't necessarily have to take Caleb Williams was, let's just say, Jaden Daniels in Washington turns their franchise completely around. They become perennial playoff appearances with him in Washington, and Caleb Williams 3 years down the line is still struggling in Chicago. I think the question would probably be raised within fans in Chicago: did they take the right guy at number one? Should they have taken Jane Daniels? I'm not gonna say you should ask that now because they're both still in their development stage, but there was a reason I thought Daniels was better than Williams coming in out of college. Like I think the fact that Jaden Daniels played so many more games was not a reason to knock against him, but that's just added experience. He played at LSU. He played against SEC defenses, which are seen as some of the best in college. Sure, his Arizona State time wasn't great, but he showed at LSU he could play like big boy football, and I feel like that
Yep.
was kind of the reason why I was like getting behind him and thinking like this is the guy that should have went number one. So maybe they'll all be happy. We'll see. But Bears fans, they're just wanting a quarterback to be decent. It's been such a long time since they've had a quarterback that they weren't like ashamed of. I mean, the last one might have been Jay Cutler, and Jay Cutler was infuriating because some games he looked great, other games he would be a turnover machine, and his demeanor on the sideline was the same either way. I feel like Bears fans just wanted him to have a pulse. Uh,
Pac 12 quarterbacks in the NFL. There's only three of
okay.
them. Aaron Rod. Well, technically now there's more with Caleb Williams and a couple other guys. But
Yeah.
before them, if you want to give notable names out of there, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I mean, you got guys like Justin Herbert and those guys there, but Aaron Rodgers. Oh, here's the list: Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff. He went to Cal. I did not know that. I just
That's right.
found that out there. Gardner Minshew, Jake Browning, Marcus Mariota, Davis Mills, Sam Darnold, Tyler Huntley, and that's about it. They ranked the guys from Pac-12 schools. And all I'm saying is Bo Nix is in there too, but that wasn't on my list. This list is from 2023, John. All right, it's from 2023. I can't control the list I look up. But what I'm saying is, you look at past success of Pac-12 quarterbacks, not so well. Why? When you're in college, Pac-12 defenses sucked. I don't know who else in the world needs to hear this, and I don't know why nobody ever noticed this, but Pac-12 defenses sucked. Why was every game 45-42? You had Arizona playing in games with Oregon. Why was that even possible? Oregon didn't have a great defense. They sucked. USC played close games with Arizona State. Arizona State barely, they had one point where Arizona State was trying to find a kicker with walk-on tryouts for their whole campus. Like, that's how bad Arizona State was. So, like, it's just Pac-12 defenses suck. They have always sucked.
John says Andrew Luck was good. He went to Stanford.
Yeah, Matt Leinart was good in college, too. Guess what? When he got to the NFL, he sucked.
Yeah.
But Andrew Luck was good. I feel bad. I feel bad for Andrew Luck because I think we were like kind of lost on a career of what could have been. That was a, oh my goodness, catch. Did he catch that? Oh my God. I think the Rams just walked it off. Matt Stafford still got that gun. I think, Andrew Luck was almost like a Matt Stafford. He was going to be a Matt Stafford and Aaron Rodgers, one of those kinds of guys, and we lost that. So that kind of sucked. Like the Colts, they might have been one of them teams if Andrew Luck would have not gotten, banged up and taken away from us from the game of football. Like, he was that kind of quarterback. He was very good. He was very good. Yeah, Pac-12 is good for offense, wide receivers, and running backs. 100% agree. 100% agree. You have universities that are good for certain things. Wisconsin's good for offensive linemen, linebackers. Like, that's what we do. We're linebackers, offensive linemen. You look at Alabama, wide receivers, sometimes a quarterback, but not really, right? Not really with Alabama. Quarterbacks aren't really at a premium. Jalen Hurts and Tua. But outside, I mean, are those two, are they Hall of Famers? I don't think so. I don't think so by any, it's odd. It really is because Alabama's such a powerhouse in college football.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, they don't produce like quarterbacks like that. It is, the quarterback room is odd because like Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech, right? And then you got Josh Allen goes to Wyoming. Aaron Rodgers went to Cal. Jared Goff went to Cal. Like, just, it's such odd universities that produce your quarterbacks versus your skill. That's a skill position, but your other skill positions like wide receiver, cornerbacks, defensive line, those guys are like your perennial powerhouse teams in the NFL. Whereas your quarterbacks are kind of odd universities, right? Georgia doesn't throw out many quarterbacks, right? I mean, you got Carson Beck, you got who was before him there? He was there for like 90 years. Who was before Carson Beck? Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett was like, this guy was never going to make an NFL quarterback. It's just so weird. Oh, no.
Yeah, I was just reading this, and I was like, this can't be a legit
Shot Bryce
thing.
Young and possible Stetson Bennett in trade and fourth round.
In
So
a
they're going to
round pick. Like,
what is he
come
saying?
on.
They're going to try and trade Stetson. They have Stetson Bennett. Is he with the Panthers? Is that what he's saying?
No, I think Bennett's with the Rams, I think.
Why would you try and trade for Stetson
So he's
Bennett?
basically saying you would shop Bryce Young for Stetson Bennett in a fourth round pick. I don't know where that rumor came from. I'm not gonna. Yeah.
Yeah,
Stetson's
Stetson Bennett's
Rams, yeah.
with the Rams. He is. He's with the Rams. So is Jimmy G. That's odd.
That's right. He is.
Do you remember when everybody was like, Jimmy G is the hot commodity out there for like free agent quarterbacks? And now look at Jimmy G. That's the same with, what the worst contract? Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler had like one good game and the Texans win. Yeah. Oh my goodness. This dude is going to lead us to the promised land. And that was bad. That was bad.
Well, John's saying he's hearing it from radio stations here. Okay. I think that's a bold strategy. Because if you weren't happy
Anthony
with Bryce
just
Young,
listed off. What did he just list off? Daniel Jones went to Duke. Like, that's weird too.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a weird university to pull a quarterback
out
of.
I was just like looking at teams to see where some of these quarterbacks came from.
Drake May went to North Carolina. Like, that's not a powerhouse in football. That's nowhere near a powerhouse of football. Russell Wilson technically went to NC State, but then he ended up at Wisconsin for a season. But you really don't count that in his development, So you're talking about a guy who went to, NC State predominantly, right? And and Jane Daniels, what was he? He was Arizona State for 2 years.
Yes.
Was he at LSU for 2 years or only for a season?
I think LSU was just 1 year.
So he was at Arizona State for. I'm gonna hold on. I'll pull him up here. Let's look at him. College. 2 seasons, 2022
Yeah.
and 2023. But you're talking about a guy who played 3 seasons at Arizona State. So technically he's repping Arizona State there. That's where he developed most of it, right? It's
Hmm.
just so it's Sam Howell went to North Carolina. Yeah, but Sam Howell's a dud. Like, let's just get over that one. He's a dud. I mean, it's such a quarterbacks are weird and they go to weird universities. Yeah, I know he went to
Yeah.
Utah State.
Jordan Love,
Like,
Utah State.
he
Yeah.
wasn't impressive
Josh
at
Allen was
Utah State.
Wyoming.
Why do you think Packer fans got so pissed off when we drafted him? He didn't look good at Utah State. He looked average at Utah State.
Yeah.
It's a lot
Trey
of. We
Lance.
could go through an
Trey
entire
Lance,
list.
North
There's a lot of
Dakota
weird ones.
State. So, I mean, I only think the Jordan Love part was he was just an unknown. I don't know how much Utah State football the average fan in Green Bay is probably watching.
Zero.
And
Absolutely
right,
none. It was
so
Pac
to a
12
lot of
hours,
fans,
man.
if you don't know the school the guy
Where did
went
Joe
to,
Flacco go to college?
he was a
John's telling us
Delaware
he was
Blue
weird.
Hen. He was a Delaware
Really?
Blue Hen. Yeah, I think Delaware's the Blue Hens, but yeah, he went to Delaware. All right. Look, I mean, I feel like we're winding down the show here. So, you guys in the chat have any question that you want to throw out there, we'll end it with one like that, or you have a comment you want us to kind of reply to. Let's do that as we wind down the show here. Because
Jimmy
some of these,
Garoppolo. Where did Jimmy Garoppolo go to college?
I believe he went to Tony Romo U, which was East Illinois.
Bam. That's dirty. Let's see here. Carson Wentz went to North Dakota State. You said that one.
Yep.
Adam Thielen is a weird one. I don't know if you'll get this one. It's in the Midwest. I don't know if it's actually a D1 school, though.
I was about to say, I think Thielen was a smaller school guy. I have no idea.
I'm trying to... Minnesota State University.
There you go.
It is a D2 school. It is a D2 school there.
That is one thing about the NFL. Like, if you have talent, they will send a scout and they will find you no matter where you are.
Here's a pretty good player you might know. Mm-hmm. Malcolm Butler, who saved your Super Bowl there when we decided not to give the ball to Marshawn Lynch. Where did he go to college? It's down in your neck of the woods. It's in the South.
Yes, I know. Malcolm Butler was he Alabama State?
It is in the state of Alabama.
So he wasn't Alabama State. Okay.
I did not know this was an actual school until I just saw this.
Oh.
Okay, you went to community college. What community college?
Yeah, you did go to West Alabama. Oh, okay.
John's got it. West Alabama. There it is.
I mean, look, Kyle Duggar went to Lenore-Rhyne, which most people couldn't spell it or even knew what state it was in. Like, if you're in the NFL, they will find you in the most random spots. All right, Anthony has something for us to end the show with. Predict the next NFL player to get traded.
Wow, that's tough. That's tough.
That is very tough.
You're giving me a wide open book here with a lot of canvas to write on, and I ain't got a pen. Could you simplify this question for me? Could you go what's one team that should trade for a position player that probably will?
I feel like you need to do that because there's so many players out there. So let's say with the trade deadline,
are you talking Tuesday, big move? Are we talking big, or are we talking depth? Because there's a difference between depth and big.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we'll look at it this way: trade deadline is on Tuesday. Who's the one team that absolutely needs to get somebody?
Who absolutely needs to, or who will? That's two different things too.
Clarify what's the next position to get traded.
Oh wow, that's wide open for me.
Which I guess could link with if you had a team pick a team that needs to make a move and what position they need to get.
The Ravens need to find help in the secondary because if they're going to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs, heck, if they're even going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals twice, did they beat them
Mm-hmm.
once already? I don't even know if they beat them once already. If they beat
They
them
did.
once already, then they're on a fast track. Though that was that close game too that Joe Burrow
Yeah.
threw the pick and Chris Canty's like, he's the reason why they lose every game. I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, the Ravens got to get help in that secondary. So I would say the Ravens need help in that secondary. I could say Washington, if they want to be a solid contender, they would be looking for a wide receiver of some capacity. If I'm the Packers, I know the Packers don't make trades, so now we're talking hypotheticals here, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
Packers should find somebody to create pass rush for them and stop the run, right? They need help there. So you're talking about the Packers in that scenario. Who else out there could use? I mean, I think all the big moves are done. I'll be honest with you. I don't see a team that makes a massive splash. I really don't. Miles Garrett isn't going anywhere. Max Crosby isn't going anywhere. I just don't see any. I see weird deals. Like if John's thing about Bryce Young happens, like that's weird. Like I don't see that one happening. But
Mm-hmm.
if that one happens, I see a lot of under the table depth moves. I see maybe the Commanders adding like a second, third tier wide receiver guy, to add more weapons in the room. I think the Packers might add depth in there. I don't see anybody making huge moves out there. The 49ers getting Higgins or Hill, that'd be wild. That'd be wild. Like
I
that would
mean,
be a massive
Greg,
move. Or if
I'm
If
saying,
Waddle asks out from Miami, maybe Waddle goes over there. That'd be
yeah.
crazy. That'd be some crazy talk
So
there. But
49ers needing a wide receiver, I think that's something that they should definitely look for. I'll throw this one in. The Falcons should get a pass rusher
yes, yes.
because they got Matt Judon a little before the season started, but he hasn't really put up the sack numbers. I think offensively, they have pieces with Kirk Cousins and his ability that they could be a really good team. But if their defense can't get pressure on some of these quarterbacks in the NFC, I think it kind of negates how dangerous they could be offensively. So
I just,
if I was the Falcons, I would get a pass rusher.
the hardest part right now is it's so jumbled, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
your top three teams, but then you look at the rest of the records in the league right now. You could vouch for a team like the Indianapolis Colts with 4 losses. You could talk about the Bengals with 5 losses right now. It's like who is so far out of it at this point that they
That you
could
could
make a move and
start
afford to
pluck
lose a
talent
guy.
from. Yeah.
And I just don't see one that is like the Patriots. Who are they going to send out at this point? Like, who are you really going to pluck off the Patriots? That is going to maybe an offensive lineman? I don't know, but who's trading an offensive lineman? I don't think anybody, right? And then you look at the
Mm-hmm.
Dolphins. How far do they think they're away? Like now that you're 2-6, does that change the scenario? I know the Jets aren't going to unload. They're going to probably add another piece, if anything. Like, let's just keep throwing pieces together. Maybe something will lead to a 10-0 stretch. I don't know, right? I believe the Colts are still in it. Looking at that AFC North, the Bengals don't think they're out of it, but what do you pluck from the Browns? The Browns could be interesting just because I think there's pieces on the defense outside of Miles Garrett, like Greg Newsome's on there. Zadarius Smith is on there too. I think Ward's still out there. Like there's pieces on that defense where maybe a guy like one of them guys gets moved. I don't see any major moves happen anymore. I think all these teams are going to sit kind of still. There's going to be depth pieces that are moved, but I think all the big trades like the Amari Cooper, those kinds of deals, the DeAndre Hopkins, those are done and over with. Like we're not going to see any crazy moves yet.
All right. Look, we will see. Like I said, trade deadline is Tuesday, which means obviously by next week's show, we might be talking about a major move that happened Tuesday that might change the landscape. But as trading looks at it, probably not. Probably more smaller deals that some of these teams make. Well, we will see. The NFL isn't necessarily the most active when it comes to their trade deadline. But this is also a weird year, like you also said, where there's a lot of teams who are just outside who could make a move in. It's some teams who might be playing over their head right now. Uh, as John says, the Texans should probably go get a wide receiver as Diggs and Collins are both out.
I just don't see any wide receivers that are available. You're talking about the Bengals still being in it. Well, that takes Higgins. That takes, those guys off table. You're talking about who else is going to make a wide receiver available at this point? Like the Panthers, but they already got rid of Deontay Johnson. So who else are you going to make available out there for you? Like it just seems like there's
The
nobody left.
Patriots have said, if you want KJ Osborne, they will listen. I think to some, you might be able to get Kendrick Bourne out.
Anthony may be right with that one. Zadarius Smith, it doesn't matter who. So if he does get traded from the Browns, his ultimate goal in life will to beat the Browns, to beat the Packers, and to beat the Vikings. I don't know what that guy has like against teams that just let him go or move on from him, but all of a sudden you become like this target on his calendar where when he sees he's playing you, he wants that. So if there is a team who's going to go after Zadarius Smith, it will be the Detroit Lions, because even if the Packers tried, he'd be like, nah, I ain't coming back to you guys. And if the Vikings tried, he'd be like, nah, don't want to go to you guys. I want to go to the Lions. He'd go to the Bears. He just wants to beat the Packers. I don't know what's up this guy. Like, he just is, I don't even know. Like, we have his brother. Preston Smith is here. Like, dude, we have Preston Smith. You can be our friend. We can be friends again, right? Like, holy cats, this guy. Like, he said it point blank. I want to go to the Lions because I want to beat the Packers and the Vikings. Like, Zadarius, settle down. Settle down. You sucked when you were in Green Bay. Why do you think we got rid of you? All right?
I can appreciate a player holding a grudge like that. I can appreciate it. But I mean, look, if that's his motive.
We didn't wrong him, though. Like, if we wronged him, I'd be like, sure, crap. Like, Brett Favre, like, he felt like he was forced out. Like, you want to come back, beat the Packers? Sure, crap. You come back, beat the Packers, man. Go to the Vikings. But, like, these other, like, if Aaron Rodgers all of a sudden had this vendetta where he's like, I just want to beat Jordan Love and the Packers, like, dude, we didn't ask you. Like, we asked you multiple times. We tried to make phone calls, and you told us that you had no cell reception. We were trying to FaceTime you, brother. You have Wi-Fi. Like, dude's acting like he lives in a hole in the ground. Like, wow.
I mean, hey, in his mind, he's living off the grid.
In his mind,
when he's in that cave, he probably is
wild.
Really off the grid.
I haven't read his book yet, but I'm going to at some point. Out of the Darkness or whatever it's called. Or Into the Darkness. I don't even know. Whatever it's called there. I'm going to read that book.
I can only imagine what those pages are filled with.
Oh, God. It's probably blank. It's like it started out when I walked into the hole, and then like the first 55 pages are dark, like just black pages. It's like, oh, okay. Now what happens next?
Exactly.
I'm telling you now, I like the Colts. I like Josh Downs in this game. If you have Josh Downs in fantasy, I forgot to put him in there to beat Kyle this week. I really thought about it. I just forgot to add him. I like Josh Downs and the Colts to win this one, just because the Vikings are kind of falling apart right now, and their slot corner is absolutely terrible. And when Downs plays with Flacco, he's a dog. So I like the Colts. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what the spread is. What's the spread in that game?
I will tell you right here in a second. It is Vikings -6.
Colts with the upset. I think give them 3. Give them 3 on that one. What's the money line telling us?
Colts +220.
Oh, it's kind of changing on us right now. The money line just flipped when I flipped it on here. Wow.
Oh. And over under 47.5.
Yeah, I like the Colts. Give me the Colts.
The -6 is tempting to go with the Colts, especially with Joe Flacco in there. I kind of agree with you. I'll take the Colts +6, but I think the Vikings win it by a field goal.
I could see that.
All right, there you go. That's right there. Nice timing. We'll end it with that. So once again, remember.
Congrats, Jory. Congrats. You come to gloat at the end. Congrats. All right. You didn't play the Detroit Lions. You played the Patriots. Go away. I'm just kidding.
I mean, look, I will say this. I guess the final word here. Yes, Jory's team beat mine. That defense, I will say, in Tennessee, it is pretty good. It makes you just wonder, if the quarterback play was better, obviously, like that would be a dangerous team in the AFC. So that also makes me think the next couple of years, if they continue to build on that defense and keep the right pieces, Tennessee's not that far away. I know what their record looks like right now, and Drake May's the guy. I've thought it since he started a couple of weeks ago, but what he did today, standing up in that pocket against that tough defense. Yes, he had a couple of picks. He had the strip sack fumble and everything like that, but he also made some throws where I was like, yeah. So, yes, congrats to the Titans, but it's still Drake May's time in New England. All right, I'm trying to see what this other comment is.
Anthony's telling you that the Patriots suck.
Your New England just bad. I mean, okay. Like, you're not telling me something I don't know. I know the Patriots are bad, but
building blocks, Anthony. Building blocks towards something bigger.
Exactly.
They didn't build Rome in a night.
Once you lock down your quarterback, you can kind of move on from there. I think they've locked it down with Drake May.
It took 5 seasons for him to build Rome. Just let him take 5 seasons here. They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah. They're still in the evaluation phase. Like, it's all good.
Between the Red Sox and the Patriots.
Okay, look. The Red Sox will be spending this offseason. Probably. I don't know. You never know.
I've heard.
Yeah, we'll see. But appreciate all of you that were in the chat. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. I know you guys are probably ready to watch Colts Vikings. Should be an interesting matchup. Anthony said building blocks is not IKEA. Anthony, come on now. Don't try to knock me down off my high of my Patriots finally having a quarterback. It's building blocks. Make sure you guys come back next week on the Snap Counts podcast. Also give us a like, greatly appreciate it. Follow, subscribe, Integrity Sports Network if you haven't already. And so enjoy the game. Enjoy the Monday night game as well, which should be an interesting matchup with the Bucs and the Chiefs. We'll see you next week.